details about daily life in the ancient Jewish world. For example, on the Sabbath morning, Saturday morning, they would be gathered at the synagogue. And then things would end, and about noon, they would go for the main meal of the day. And of course, you weren't allowed to work on the Sabbath unless you were cooking. Then you were allowed, okay? You know how that goes, right? Okay. And here's a problem with Simon's mother-in-law being sick. Now, don't imagine she's the only female in the house that's cooking, because extended relatives would be there too, and friends of the family, things like that. But the fact that she was like the senior woman in the house and sick was pretty serious. Now, Jesus in the synagogue had just done something he was not supposed to do on the Sabbath. I don't know if you remember what it was, but he drove out a demon. That's the story before this. And now he does another thing he's not supposed to do on the Sabbath. Heal. That's called work. No, no, no. Okay. So he's doing two things you're not supposed to do on the Sabbath. This is pretty shocking for this world. And people are going to talk about it. You can bet they're going to talk about it. But what's interesting is when he drives out demons and cures sickness, he just says it and it goes away. Now, they had rituals for driving out demons and curing fevers. In particular, this kind of fever, which is still not unusual in Palestine. It tends to last about 3 days, this kind of fever. And they had a ritual for doing this. How did you cure the fever? Well, first of all, you would get an iron knife made with nothing but iron. Now, if you made a mistake and got an iron knife with a wood handle, it didn't work. Okay? So first of all, get an iron knife. Now, braid hair to make a kind of rope. If you use linen or something, it doesn't work. You've got to have braided hair. Now you take that iron knife with a braided hair rope and you go find a thorn bush and you tie the thing to the thorn bush. And now over the next 3 days, once a day, you say some passages from the book of Exodus. They're particular passages over 3 days. Well, this kind of fever typically runs its course in about 3 days anyway. So you can imagine what happened. It usually worked because the fever went away, but they would say it went away because I did this ritual and then these particular statements from Exodus plus some fancy incantations, and you see, by gosh, it went away, so therefore it must work. They never thought, well, maybe if we did nothing for 3 days, it would go away anyway, because you did the ritual. That's how they understood healing. That healing had something to do with driving out evil out of a person, and you had to do special magical stuff to make that happen. That's how they got it. Yes, I'm cold too. You're not the only one, believe me. So they believed that they could have power over evil by doing this kind of special stuff. Jesus doesn't do that. Did you hear that? He just says, get out! And out it goes. There's no special incantations, no braided ropes, and no iron knives and thorn bushes and all this other stuff. And the fever, he just touches her. Boom, gone. What an amazing thing that would have been for those people. You better believe they talked about him all over Galilee. They were amazed at what they saw. And sisters and brothers, healing, we should remember too, is not an automatic. It takes something out of you. I know a number of you are involved in healing work of some kind, maybe psychological, maybe physical. But when you're helping people heal, it takes something out of you. It's a beautiful feeling when you help the thing to happen too. But you're tired. It's a good tired, because it's a beautiful thing that happened, but you're tired. Well, Jesus has been healing like crazy. He's tired. And he goes to his friend's house for lunch on the Sabbath. And he's got to do another healing. But he does it. And then what? That was around noon. Then the evening comes. You'd think time to relax, you know, sit around the campfire. I don't know if they sang Kumbaya, but something like that, okay? And they would have had a good time together. But that was not to be for him that evening. Now, why did people bring the sick in the evening? Because the Sabbath was over. That's why they brought them in the evening, when the sun went down. Because it was work to help somebody. See, you weren't allowed to do that. Stop helping people. You have to stop doing work. And now they can do some work. But there's a deeper meaning to it as well. That it's when the darkness falls that Jesus begins all these amazing healings. When the darkness falls. What does that mean for you and me today? The world we're living in, is there a kind of darkness falling? I think so. Just read the news, pay attention to things. And in the midst of the darkness coming, do the healing. See, these stories about Jesus are not there just for you and me to say, wow, go for it, Jesus, you're really great. Yeah, that's part of it. But that's part of it. What's the other part? What are you going to do to heal? That's the other part. Which are the ways you can help heal our society? Take a look around you. Read what's going on. Everything from education to environment, you can take your pick. Healthcare, whatever. Healing needs to happen while the darkness is falling. And it's now for us, who really are the body of Christ, if you really believe it. It's now for us to carry on that healing ministry. How can we do this? We don't feel like we have the power. But we really do have the life of God in us, don't we? Aren't we fed on divine life here at the altar? That's why we say it really is Christ's body and blood. It's not just an idea. It's not a symbol. It's something deeper. We are fed on the life of God so that we can do this in the midst of darkness. What a beautiful thing that God gives us, His own life in the Eucharist. What a beautiful thing that God gives us His teaching in the Word that we heard tonight. The Old Testament, the Psalm, the second reading, the Gospel. God feeds us so we can keep doing it. I can tell you the summer I was working at Good Sam downtown. One of my floors was cancer. I had a number of other floors too. Boy, you're tired at the end of the day. But there were days too when I had the night shift besides. So you're on for like an 18-hour stint, you know? And everything from a happy new baby to a disastrous car accident to a cancer patient to somebody slowly improving and somebody slowly dying and somebody suddenly dying and everything in between for 18 hours. You're going and going and going. And you're tired. But even for those who are dying, there could be that healing. That healing of soul that was so beautiful to see. And that's real. Don't let anybody tell you if it's not physical, it's not real. No, there were deeper realities going on every day. And I think you know that too. You've had these experiences in your life, or you know of people who have. Sisters and brothers, as the darkness falls, we too are called to be healers, to keep living the life of Jesus in our world today. And that is such a beautiful gift. And we can do it. We can do it. Because we are fed on God's life, not ours. What a great gift. It's a beautiful thing to be a Christian in this world now.